visiting with the finance director and other staff, we think that the $100+ million worth of funded CIP projects that are in the plan, underway and moving, represents the largest CIP investment in the history of the city, and it's 128 years. And that's something I think from a council standpoint and a community standpoint is fairly significant to pause and think about the amount of capital improvement projects that are currently underway. Has probably never been equaled in the history of the city before, so that's fairly significant. Again, other actions tonight, tax roll and tax rate, and at this point I'll turn it over to the finance director.
Mayor, city council members. Tonight we do, I think this is about the 15th meeting. We're going to try to abbreviate the information. If you have want to drill deeper, have more questions, please let me know. We have all the information here. Just agenda item number 3 is the total budget for all funds within the city. Total revenues and other sources equal $94.5 million. Total expenditures and transfers equal $96.3 million. There is a slide shows, and in your packet we show the difference between your filed budget and the budget as it's presented tonight. Next slide, as David just read, there's a new state law that requires a different language ratifying the property tax increase, and I won't read that again, but it shows that we did increase property taxes compared to last year's budget by $1,073,378, and of that amount, $719,061, which is about 2/3, is from new properties, new value that had not been taxed in the previous year. Again, that's just a more detailed slide that shows the total increase from the current year compared to the previous year. New value of $128 million. The composition of that, 44.5% from real single family, 34.34% from commercial industrial. Just big pictures, revenue and expenditures of the general fund. Total budget of $54.3 million. Sales tax makes up 29% of that. Ad valorem tax 19.69%. Total expenditures $55.9 million. Close to 60% is personnel cost. 36.24% is operation. Again, we've over and over we've showed you the changes from the filed budget to the budget as it's presented tonight. We show the reduction from property tax revenue from the certified roll. The budget was filed with the preliminary roll, and then we later received the certified roll. And also expenditures, we shifted monies around, the compensation contingencies of $184,000. Again, that was just a shift. The debt service fund, again, we had a reduction from preliminary to certified roll, and then we increased interest earnings by $13,786. No changes in expenditures. Also included as part of the budget document is the fiscal and budgetary policy and the statement overview. The purpose of the fiscal and budgetary policy statement is to enable the city to achieve and maintain a long-term, stable, and positive financial condition. The policies include the operating budget, revenue policies, expenditures, and so on, asset management, treasury, debt management, internal controls, staffing, and training. And there were no changes proposed in this policy compared to the previous years. We also include in the document our investment policy overview. Our objectives in order of priority is safety, liquidity, and yield. The policy also addresses diversification of investments, authorized investments, reporting, and then investment purchasing. Again, no changes proposed this year. The capital improvement plan for this list for 2009, we've had proposing $29.7 million in funded projects coming up in the next year. Revenue bonds of $15 million. The GEO bonds, the fire bonds that were approved in May, we actually plan to issue those bonds in the spring of 2009. And then hotel motel improvements to the Mabern Center of $733,000, and those will be funded with fund balance from the hotel motel tax roll. Tax roll. Stop for just a second. Mayor, did you go through all the agenda items? Or which?
I went through. I just did the ratifying the property tax rate in the budget. So I wouldn't.
Okay, so I'm going to stop.
Okay.
I've went past. I did agenda item 4 too.
Oh, okay.
Kind of all goes together.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Council, any questions relating to the budget itself? Both these items are related to the budget. Tax roll to the compensation plans, investment policies, fiscal policies. If there are no questions, this item requires a public hearing. I'll declare the public hearing open at this time. Anyone wishing to speak to the council on either of these items, the adoption of the budget or the budget itself, and the related plans of compensation, fiscal and investment policies, please come forward and state your name and address for the record.
Mayor, council members, I'm Christina McNeil, and I live at 2701 Valley Forge here in Temple. I have concerns only about one page in the budget, and that is page 88, special services. There are a lot of items on there that are 501c3 plans, and probably about 20 years ago I had to investigate all that with regard to the federal government and the IRS. These organizations at that time could not receive tax dollars. They had to raise their own money. So I would ask that you look into that. And if you do need to move it, the police department is desperately in need of more money. The fire department is in need of more money. The streets got a lot of holes in them. The water and sewer system always needs work done on it, and that can be used for all of those things. And I hope you will consider doing that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McNeil. Anyone else wishing to speak to these items? Seeing no one wishing to speak, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Council, any comments or questions? And we do need to take these two items separately. So if there's nothing else for staff or any other questions or comments, we'll entertain a motion on item 3A.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we ratify the property tax increase reflected in the budget.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for item 3A on ratification of the property tax. Further discussion? There being none, Madam Secretary.
Councilmember Jeter?
Aye.
Councilmember Jansen?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Lunas?
Aye.
Councilmember Schneider?
Aye.
Mayor Jones?
Aye. Item 3B is adopting the city's budget for fiscal year beginning October 1st of 2008 and ending September 30th of 2009, including the operating budget for the year with the civil service compensation plans, fiscal and investment policies. If there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion on item 3B.
I move that we adopt the proposed city budget for fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2008 and ending September 30th, 2009, including the operating budget for 2008-2009, two civil service compensation plans, and fiscal and investment policies.
Thank you, Mr. Jancek. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion, Madam Secretary.
Councilmember Jeter?
Aye.
Councilmember Jansen?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Lunas?
Aye.
Councilmember Schneider?
Aye.
Mayor Jones?
Aye. Item 4 is to consider adopting a resolution authorizing the adoption of the 2009 to 2013 capital improvement plan. Mr. Blackman.
Mayor, I think Ms. Bernard already went over some of those items in her comments, so I'll just answer any questions you may have any associated with that.
Thank you, sir. Council, questions on that item? If there are none, I'll entertain a motion for consideration of item 4 relating to the capital improvement plan.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion second for approval of the capital improvement plan for 2009 to 2013. If there's no further discussion, Madam Secretary.
Councilmember Jeter.
Aye.
Councilmember Jansen.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Lina. Aye. Councilmember Schneider.
Aye.
Mayor Jones.
Aye. First and final reading and a public hearing to consider adopting an ordinance approving the tax roll and authorizing calculation of the amount of tax that can be determined for all real and personal property in the city for the tax year 2008 to be considered on an emergency basis. Ms. Bernard.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. The proposed ordinance will adopt the ad valorem property tax roll certified by the Tax Appraisal District of Bell County in the amount of $3,230,553,530. The total 2008 taxable value, which is for FY 2009, it lists the amount that was certified for the City of Temple, the freeze taxable value, a new transfer adjustment this year, the amount related to the tax increment district or the reinvestment zone for the total taxable value of $3.2 billion. Just some additional slides that show the growth in our assessed value of taxable property. For 2009, the base grew 8.61%. Show the composition of the market value: 44% single family, 37.2% commercial, industrial, and totally exempt property in the City of Temple is 10.8%. And that completes the information related to the tax roll.
Thank you, Ms. Bernard. Council, any questions on that item? If there are no questions or comments, this item requires a public hearing. I'll declare the public hearing open. Please come forward and state your name and address for the record prior to your comments if you wish to speak on the tax roll. Seeing no one wishing to speak, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Council, your pleasure.
Move to adopt an ordinance approving the tax roll and authorizing calculation of the amount of tax that can be determined for all real and personal property in the city for the tax year 2008 to be considered on an emergency basis.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
A motion and a second. Further discussion? There being none, Madam Secretary.
Councilmember Jeter.
Aye.
Councilmember Jansen.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Lina.
Aye.
Councilmember Schneider.
Aye.
Mayor Jones.
Aye. Item 6 is a first and a final reading and a public hearing to consider adopting an ordinance levying taxes and setting a tax rate for the city for the tax year 2008, making the appropriation for the regular operation of the city to be considered on an emergency basis. Ms. Bernard.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. The proposed tax rate for the FY 2009 budget is a total of 55.95 cents per $100 valuation. The maintenance and operation component of that is 33.22 cents, and the interest and sinking, which goes toward tax-supported debt, is 22.73 cents per $100 valuation. Compared to the effective tax rate, it's 2.98% above that. The effective tax rate is the rate that if you tax the same properties you did last year, this year as you did last year, what rate would it take to generate that same revenue? Next slide just compares the current proposed rate to the 2008 rate, which shows a 1.51% decrease in the rate. Next slide, with the proposed tax rate of 55.95 cents on a $100,000 value home, what would your taxes be? If there was no change in your taxable value, your taxes would actually decrease by 71 cents. And if you had an increase in value of the average within the City of Temple limits of 4.92%, your tax bill would increase by $1.58 per month. And just some history on the City of Temple tax rate. The proposed 2009 tax rate is the lowest tax rate since 2000 for the City of Temple, 55.95 rate. And then this is just a summary of the actions you've taken and required. I'd be happy to address any questions you have related to any of the items.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Council, questions? There being none, this item requires a public hearing. I'll declare the public hearing open. Anyone wishing to speak to the council on the item, please come forward and state your name and address for the record. Seeing no one wishing to speak, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Council, this item requires two parts. You have the appropriately worded motion for each, if you care to make such, in front of you. Entertain a motion for item A.
Mr. Mayor, I move that property taxes be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of 55.95 cents per $100 valuation.
Thank you, Mr. Janzak. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? There being none, Madam Secretary.
Councilmember Jeter?
Aye.
Councilmember Janzak?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Luna?
Aye.
Councilmember Schneider?
Aye.
Mayor Jones?
Aye. And item B.
I move that the ordinance setting the 2008-2009 tax rate for the city of Temple be adopted.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Madam Secretary.
Councilmember Jeter?
Aye.
Councilmember Janzak?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Luna?
Aye.
Councilmember Schneider? Mayor Jones?
Aye. Item 7 is to consider adopting a resolution funding the rates for the medical, prescription insurance, and dental insurance and employees and under the age of 65 retirees, as well as life insurance, accidental death and dismemberment insurance, and long-term disability insurance. Ms. House.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. On their meeting on July 24th, the trustees of the City of Temple Employee Benefits Trust awarded contracts for medical insurance with Scott & White and renewed a contract with MetLife for dental. We're asking the council now to fund those contracts, to fund the trust in essence, which also includes contracts that were awarded on a multi-year basis in a prior year for life insurance, AD&D insurance, and long-term disability. Be glad to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Ms. House. Council, are there any questions regarding those benefits from Ms. House and the action of the trust? There being none, entertain a motion on item 7.
Motion to adopt a resolution funding the rates for medical, prescription insurance, and dental insurance for employees and under age 65 retirees, as well as life insurance, accidental death and dismemberment insurance, and long-term disability insurance.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Madam Secretary.
Councilmember Jeter?
Aye.
Councilmember Janzak?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Luna?
Aye.
Councilmember Schneider?
Aye.
Mayor Jones?
Aye. Let me just say before we adjourn this meeting how much I appreciate the work of staff during this budget cycle and this process. To Ms. Bernard, to you and your staff, thank you for a tremendous amount of work. I know this is a long, arduous process that almost doesn't seem to end as the year goes on anymore. And Mr. Blackburn, to you and your department for a tremendous effort on this budget. Thank you very much. And to the council, thank you for your work over the last 6 months. If there is nothing further for this evening's meeting, ladies and gentlemen, we are adjourned.